Welcome back. This is part 2 of our implications of the definition of religion. Last time we went over the first 3 implications. Remember, we said religion is the belief or set of beliefs we use to give meaning to our experience. Then we said all persons are religious since all give meaning to their experience. Religion is fundamentally cognitive. It has to do with beliefs, which are either true or false. And we said no experience is meaningful without interpretation. We talked about the house. Now we're on to point 4, and this is about faith and reason. What is faith? Because a lot of people talk about faith when they get to religion. I'm going to give you a definition of faith, and it comes from the Christian scriptures, and I think it's the original definition. The definition we find in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, is that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. You know what? I'm going to write that down and you can analyze it together. Okay, here we are back at the iPad, and we have a definition from Hebrews, the book of Hebrews in the Christian scripture, chapter 11, verse 1. This is the chapter about faith. Faith is a concept that is probably in all religions, but this is the original where it says faith is. This is like a definition. So let's think about it. Faith is, and then it says, the substance of things hoped for. And we can say there's probably, it should be a comma there, the evidence of things unseen. So this is a sentence we could analyze and say, what does that mean? So the substance, this is, the New Testament is written in Greek, and you can look at the original Greek words to see what they mean. And the word for substance is upostasis, which is like the underlying material, the underlying being that holds things together. So I have a table in front of me, and the substance of the table is matter. But I don't see the matter. I see the wood, and I see the wood grain, and I feel the solidity of the table. So I experience the table through its qualities, not through the matter itself. So think of substance as like the support of the things you hope for. And the things you hope for, you don't see. You don't see them with your senses, right? They're in the future, things you hope for. Perhaps you hope to get your degree one day. This is something in the future, right? So do you have a support, underlying support for having that hope? Probably you graduated. Maybe you're still in high school. I don't know. But maybe you've finished classes. Perhaps you've graduated high school and you've completed some college classes, and you think, yeah, I do have substance, support for thinking that I will graduate one day. And the second half, the evidence of things unseen. So there's evidence for thinking you will graduate, but you don't see the graduation day, right? It's in the future. So what kind of evidence? What kind of evidence can we have for things that are unseen? What would that be like? Can't be sense evidence. Can't be seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. Perhaps it's rational evidence. Reasons. We just went through reasons for thinking you're going to graduate. You've completed high school. You've completed some college classes successfully. Now, sometimes your faith can be shaken. I had my faith shaken when I was a student. Yeah, one semester I dropped out. And I thought, this is hopeless. I can't finish. No, but you get more reasons for thinking you can do it. Maybe your friends come over and persuade you, give you a good argument. You know, you were taking the wrong classes. Maybe you were in the wrong major. That's why you weren't succeeding. Maybe you should reconsider. That's what my friends did. I was first a geology major. I didn't do well in math and I couldn't get through it. And then I was an anthropology major and I just wasn't happy. The questions were too narrowly focused for my head. I needed big questions. So my friends came over and said, hey, perhaps you should take a philosophy class. They're big questions. And when I took that class, it was right for me. So my faith was restored that I could graduate. So I'm trying to use this example of graduating to show you that you have hope for something you don't see, and you have evidence. So this is a kind of faith, belief in what you don't see. Now, you can see that the evidence is rational evidence. So there's a connection between faith and reason. Although sometimes people define faith this way: belief in what you cannot prove. Really? Where did that come from? Who would believe in stuff you can't prove? Or belief in what you can't understand. Belief despite contrary evidence. That is we'll call it fake faith. It's called fideism. Fideism, notice it's got an ism, is belief without proof or understanding. Now, as we go through class, we can talk about fideism more and see the history of fideism. It arises in the history of religion, particularly the theistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, particularly within Christianity and Islam. So fideism, belief without proof or understanding. We're going to say that's not faith. This is not faith. This is fideism. We're going to make that distinction. This is faith. Now, we're talking about the relationship between faith and reason. So let's go back to the handout. In fact, I think I'm going to clear this iPad so I can draw something else or write something else when we come back. So let's go to the handout and read through this. As truth cannot be separated from meaning, so faith cannot be separated from reason. What does that mean? Let's go back to the handout and illustrate. Back to the iPad. If I were to say this, if we were in class and I said, hey class, Blix are grew. True or false? What would you say? Blix are grew. True or false? Most students go, huh? What's that? And it's because we don't know the meaning of the terms here. If we don't know what Blix and grew are, we can't say whether this is true or false. That's not possible. Why? Because meaning of terms in a sentence comes before the truth of the sentence. So we break things down into smaller parts and we say, what does that mean? You haven't defined your term. What does that mean? You haven't defined your term. So let's try this one. What if I said, Blix are non-Blix. Blix are non-Blix. True or false? True or false? You know the answer to this one, right? You're going to say, no, that's like a contradiction. That can't be. It's not true. It's not true. So notice again, we're looking at the meaning of things, and we do have tools for testing the meaning of things. Reason is our tool. And the principle I want to draw out from this exercise is that meaning is more basic than truth, which is less basic. So when I draw things, I guess on the iPad, I usually put the more basic down here, like we did with the house. So the foundation is more basic than the house, which is less basic, right? If you don't have a foundation, then you can't build the house. More basic, less basic. That's a method that we're going to use in analyzing religion's ideas, concepts like faith and reason. All right, now I'm going to erase part of this, and we're going to come back to this question of meaning is more basic than truth. I used Blick's Argrew to illustrate that. We need to know what that means before we can say whether it's true. Now we're going to talk about faith and reason. Reason is more basic. Reason is more basic than faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen, and the evidence we have is by reason. So reason is our tool for grasping meaning. If you want to know more about this, you should take a philosophy class. We go into depth in the relationship between reason and meaning, and reason and truth, and faith and truth. Faith is the tool that we have for grasping what is true. Meaning comes before truth, and reason comes before faith. So you can see there's relationships here. This is called epistemology of religion. How do we know religious things? Well, first we start with meaning, and we grasp meaning by reason, and then we go to truth and we grasp it by faith. Okay? We can always say more about this. I want you to think about it, and we'll go back to the handout here. So you can see, as truth cannot be separated from meaning, so faith cannot be separated from reason. It is by reason that meaning is grasped. Reason is the test for meaning. Blick's Argrew. What does that mean? Let's test it. Blick's are non-Blick's. What does that mean? Let's test it. Faith grows as understanding grows. So as we have a certain belief, let's say I believe God exists, but I'm not sure I understand all the implications of that for my life. As I grow in that understanding of who God is and what God does, my faith, my understanding of God grows as well. Faith is tested as understanding is tested. Like I was saying, when your faith is shaken because you don't understand. I didn't understand that there were other things I could have studied in college besides geology or anthropology. I didn't understand my purpose either. So your faith can be tested as your understanding is tested, and life will test our understanding. Now, in that original quote, faith is contrasted with sight. So faith is grasped by reason, not by sight or the senses. It is not contrasted with reason. So there is no tension between faith and reason. There is a tension between faith and seeing with your eyes. And there's no contrast with faith or proof or understanding. Now, I know that it's popular to go on the internet right now and watch all these atheist videos, that argue against theists. I would challenge all of you students to study the historic arguments for people who claim to have certain faith. So there have been traditionally proofs for the existence of God. Now, some of those proofs have failed. That's true. But can they be revived? This is what the philosophy of religion is about. Looking at the historic proofs for God, where they went wrong, and examining where those proofs can be revived. So don't just go with internet arguments or internet religion. Dig deeply into the history of each religion and see what was the arguments that this religion presented. And they all have arguments. They all have philosophical levels of defending the faith, so to speak. Okay, that's my soapbox, because I love philosophy of religion, and I see students just turned off by religion. They go online and they're like, yeah, these are ignorant people, and then they turn off to religion. And I'm going to say, no, that's internet level religion, and that's not even popular level. That's internet level religion, which is probably not very well thought out. So I want you to think about what you're rejecting first. How about that? Or think about what you're exposed to. Okay, the last implication of the definition of religion is this. No one is fully conscious of or consistent in their basic beliefs. Lots of times religious people are called hypocrites because they say one thing and they do another. That's what this is addressing. No human being is fully aware of their basic beliefs of their house and the implications of that, and no one's fully consistently living in those basic beliefs. All people have a mixture of the two basic beliefs, which we'll go over soon, with one at the core, at one being more at one's core. That's a typo. It should be being more at one's core. History is an outworking of the conflict of these two beliefs in each person, in each culture, and in world history. I feel like we should probably go over that. Let me look here. All right, it's going to come in the next section. So I'm going to pause here and talk about the history part. But the two basic beliefs, we can say at least this. Minimally, let's go back to the iPad. Minimally, people have conflicting beliefs within themselves. Pretend this is a person who believes that there is no God. Okay, that's their core belief. But pretend this person is raised in a culture that is influenced greatly by Judeo-Christian values that affirms that there is a God. So this person, as they become more conscious, aware of their basic belief and living consistently with it more and more, their basic core belief will grow and the peripheral belief will decrease. It will be less and less of an influence in their thinking. And it goes the other way too. Let's say a person is raised believing in God and they live in a secular society that says there is no God. As this person grows in their consciousness and consistency, then that peripheral belief will be less and less of an influence in that person's life. Each of us has competing beliefs within ourselves, so we're not fully conscious. Sometimes we're acting out of this belief, sometimes we're acting out of this belief. We may not even recognize we have conflicting beliefs. So it's not just the religious person that's hypocritical, it's all people that could be hypocritical. And it's usually when we're not conscious of our assumptions. Now, I'm going to pause about history as an outworking of the conflict of these two beliefs in each person, in each culture, and world history, because I'd like to connect it to the next piece and draw for you, but we're running out of time. So I'm going to pause this video and come back to that topic. But let's talk about what we went over today. So now you have all 5 implications of the definition of religion. Okay, religion is the belief or set of beliefs we use to give meaning to our experience. All persons are religious. All religion is fundamentally cognitive. No experience is meaningful without interpretation. Then today we talked about the relationship between faith and reason. As truth cannot be separated from meaning, so faith cannot be separated from reason. They're intimately connected and they always should be. We talked about fideism as an alternative definition of faith, and it's one that is popularly used, but we should push back against that. That's not real faith. No one is fully conscious of or consistent in their basic beliefs was our last one. So now we completed 2 core questions. You should make your note cards. You should study them. You should commit this to your long-term memory as part of your education. All right, I'm going to pause here and see you in the next video.